Sarah. Welcome to Just Kiddin' Around, a special all-kids edition of Missouri Outdoors. Missouri is filled with special places, but one of the most special, at least my favorite, is the Current River. This beautiful spring-fed river passes through over 100 miles of the Missouri Ozarks. Today we're going to explore this river, its history, its wildlife. We'll even explore its most hidden reaches with a team of cave diving experts as they examine some of Missouri's springs from the inside. So you take this incredible river, add a kayak and paddle, throw in a crisp fall day with just a hint of fall colors, and you have the recipe for a perfect adventure. Come along as we explore the Current River. We're just kidding around. Okay, I'm sort of new at paddling a kayak, can you tell? But it's a great way to explore Missouri streams. It's quiet, it's easy to paddle once you get the hang of it, and it takes a lot less water to float your boat. And if you do go for a float, it's a good idea to travel with some friends. It may look like I'm alone, but there's all these TV guys around. When you pass through this country, you feel like you're looking at a pristine wilderness. Like these forests have existed since the dawn of time. Well, that's not the case. Our demand for timber in the early part of the 1900s led to the deforestation of the Ozarks. There was a time many years ago when these hills were bare. Mill towns sprang up only to die away after the timber had fallen. We've since learned how to better manage our forests. It's an important chapter in the history of this region. Let's take a look.
Today, the Ozarks are known for their scenic beauty, wildlife, colorful forests, sparkling rivers. But 70 years ago, these hills were noted for one thing: timber. Lumber for the growing cities in the east, ties for the western railroads stretching across the plains. In the 1920s, the Ozark forest meant jobs, back-breaking manual labor for men with few other options. It's a time dimly remembered in a few archival films, but it's still alive in the memories of the men who worked the big timber.
And the very best of times back then, you worked 10 hours for $2. That was the going wage. If you could get that, you might work for less, but hardly anybody got over $2 a day for a 10 hours work. I don't think you do that, but you go to getting hungry and you might do it.
They were out of work. They got a claim on a creek somewhere and was trying to get a living out of what little ground they had along the creeks. And when someone came in with a sawmill, well, they were ready to go to work.
Russell Noah has spent a lifetime working in the woods. His home near Eminence has become a museum of sorts, full of old logging equipment, artifacts of a bygone era. Occasionally, Russell's place becomes a location to gather. The talk, naturally, turns to logging, and just for a moment, the past comes to life.
I've cut lots of logs with a crosscut saw for 10 cents a log. Well, it's hard work. We made ties there back in the late 20s and all through the 30s. It wasn't worth much, but that's all source we had to make a living.
To create a railroad tie, The tie hacker would first notch the length of the log with a felling axe. Then these notches would be hacked out with a smooth-sided broadaxe. A tie was not considered acceptable if the notches were more than a half an inch deep or the surfaces were uneven. Even with these primitive tools and techniques, a high level of craftsmanship was apparent.
When they got together, they talked about how many they could do. There was competition in that. They would actually take pride in the number of ties they could hew in a day and how smooth they were, and so forth.
In the early days, the hewed ties were floated downriver to the nearest railroad crossing. Some of the larger river drives contained more than 250,000 ties and took months to complete. The men working these drives were called river hogs. They were wet for weeks on end for $1.75 a day. It was not a job to be envied. From the river to the rail car, a variety of methods were needed to get the ties to market. Steam engines were used, and teams of mules. But there was always a human element, as the ties were manhandled toward their final destination.
Well, you could just travel better if it's a springy board, then you could get that to spring and it'd help you to get up there. It's a lot easier. You never did walk with a tie. You couldn't do it. You had to run with it up that board, get that board to helping you, you know. And no, you couldn't just pick one of them up and walk in the car with it. You'd give out in just a little while.
By the mid-30s, most of the big timber was logged off. Sawmills were shut down. Thousands of people left their small farms to find work in the cities. But the legacy of the big timber lives on. For those that hacked ties, worked the river, or drove a team of mules, it's an era they will never forget.
There's plenty more to come. A trip inside an Ozark Spring, and a close look at one of the Current River Country's wildest denizens. But first, let's visit with Ralph Duran and take a walk on the wild side.
Birding by ear takes practice, but it's really fun when you can surprise your friends. Here's a call for a common bird that you don't often see. Is it a common yellowthroat, a common merganser, a common snipe, or a common nighthawk? Here it is again. It's a common yellowthroat. With that distinctive black mask and yellow color, you're sure to recognize him if you see him. And if you don't, just listen for his call. It says, witchity, witchity, witchity.
There are a zillion springs along the banks of the current. They pump an amazing amount of clear and very cold water right into the river. All along the current, there are these magnificent springs. Round Spring, Blue Spring, Big Spring. They're national treasures, and they make the spring-fed Current River a really special place. They are the result of a thing called karst topography. That's where water erodes through a porous rock like limestone to create caves and springs. There's a lot going on under the Ozarks. You know, when you look right down in some of these springs, all you see is an awesome shade of blue. They're so deep and so clear, you're just seeing the water, illuminated by sunlight in its purest form. Have you ever wondered what it's like down there? Let's join some expert cave divers for a trip down under.
There are several springs in Missouri that are called Blue Spring, but this one is the deepest. It's also one of the most mysterious. Only a handful of divers have been allowed to see what lies in these blue waters near Eminence. It's been restricted to both protect divers and the natural setting of the spring.
If one poorly controls its buoyancy and bangs into the wall and breaks off a formation that has taken several thousand years to form, it's gone. It can't be replaced, we can't glue it back, we can't fix it, it's just gone forever.
But in 1995, a team of divers were preparing to go where no one had gone before, to a depth of 340 feet and beyond.
First team to video, guys, you're down.
Ready, D? Ready. Ready, Paul?
We feel that we're getting to look at just the fingertip of what's actually below the surface of Missouri here. And there's a great deal more passage that we'll never see due to the limitations of technology.
The dangers associated with diving at these depths can be great, and without proper training, experience, and preparation, even fatal.
Because we're diving under solid rock the whole time, there's no airspace up near the ceiling. There's no way for us to surface if we have an out-of-air emergency or anything else that might occur.
Permission was granted to this team with the understanding that their findings would be furnished to the state to allow everyone the chance to learn more about Blue Spring.
We've seen a magnificent cave that is just so huge that when we enter it, we really can't see all from one wall to the other.
There's large passageways. Sometimes when you go through a small area, then it'll open up into another big, huge room. And when it does that, you go, wow, this is awesome. And there's a lot of overhangs in different areas. There's quite a few fish that are swimming in and out of this one because there's so much light that actually penetrates. When you get back into the further distances that you get into, then you can actually see some blind cave fish from time to time.
We've been to depths of 140 feet in here and turned around. While we did not have direct line of sight to the opening at that point, you could still see reflected ambient light from the cave tunnel down to that depth.
It's a very special feeling for me, and I feel like it's a privilege for me to be able to see that either for the first time or in some cases just be one of the very few people that have actually seen it. It's a difficult thing to describe. It's not a thrill. It's not like jumping out of an airplane. It's a quiet, personal thing. And sometimes in a passage that's kind of silty and looks like it hasn't been disturbed in eons, you get kind of an unusual feeling of truly ancient history as you quietly swim through that passage.
We're here for a very short time, and if we're really going to enjoy it, we need to keep our eyes open to the whole world around us and grasp the wonder, the beauty, the color, the lights, the shades, the interrelationship, our impact on this world, and this world's impact on us.
Despite their name, flying squirrels don't actually fly, they glide. Researchers in Missouri continue to learn more about this interesting creature. They have a loose fold of skin that stretches out and supports the squirrel. Flying squirrels use their broad, flat tails to steer. The only mammals that truly fly are bats.
Every once in a while, you hear something outdoors that doesn't sound like it could come from an animal. For example, if you heard this sound, would you know what it was? It is an animal, but is it a brown creeper, a grasshopper, a chipmunk, or a cricket frog? It's a cricket frog, and rather than sound like an animal, they sound just like a toy clicker. I wonder if the cricket frog gets credit for the idea.
The Current River has always seemed like a wild place to me. Its rocky cliffs and steep valleys are just about as remote and rugged as Missouri gets. So, if you were a large, hairy mammal, say about 300 pounds or so, where would you pick to live? I'm talking about bears, and believe it or not, we've got them right here in Missouri. Not a lot of them, but their numbers are growing. Let's check out some researchers trying to locate this large but elusive bit of Missouri wildlife.
Think this will work, Debbie.
Missouri Department of Conservation biologists Dave Hamilton and Debbie Fonts are hunting for bears. Their tools? 3 cans of sardines and a bit of string.
Bait station for bears is a way to monitor changes in population over time. It's 3 cans of sardines that are tied together. They're hung from a tree about 8 feet, 10 feet off the ground, just out of the bear's reach. These cans are partially open, so they're dripping some of the oil and smell pretty good, I think, for a bear. And the only way the bear can get to it is climb the tree. And so we can look at the number of baits that are available and how many of them are hit by bears. And as the bear, theoretically, as the bear population increases, more and more of the baits will be visited by bears through time.
The biologists also set up a special camera near the bait.
Camera on.
Triggered by breaking an infrared beam, the camera should record any visitors to the bait station, providing positive proof of bears, and hopefully a portrait of a female with cubs.
Yeah, it's set. That's good. Key pieces missing in our puzzle in Missouri is how much reproduction is going on. And we've got a lot of evidence of males. In fact, the only evidence we have, physical evidence, is males. And we wanted to see if we can get a picture of a female with cubs.
Black bears were once thought to be extinct in Missouri. In 1931, the last bear was shot in Missouri's Boot Hill, and for over 20 years there were no bear sightings in the state. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, bears were stocked in the state of Arkansas, and some of those animals may have come north to Missouri. Whether the result of the Arkansas stocking program or a resurgence of the state's original residents, indisputable evidence now shows that Missouri has a small population of black bears.
We think right now the bear population in Missouri is approximately 150, might be as high as 300, certainly under 500. It's kind of hard to estimate because they're scattered over a large area, about 30 counties in Missouri. The department has no plans whatsoever of stocking black bears. We don't feel like it's necessary. We think we can encourage the small population that we have to grow and fill in. We think it's a valuable part of the ecosystem. It has a place. Black bear definitely has a place in Missouri. Oh my goodness. Boy, scattered it around, didn't he?
He was a little shy when he would come up at first, but then the light was on, and he just walked right up here, just real close to me and my daughter. Lisa said, "Well, Mom, look how close he is," or "Do you see him?" And he was right here, and we heard him growl.
Isn't that amazing? 300-pound animal.
The Barrys of Winona, Missouri have first-hand experience with Missouri's bears. For several nights in a row, a large black bear helped himself to some of the Barrys' honey and destroyed their beehives in the process.
There's a hare. It's not uncommon at all to see a bear that's been attracted to some food around people's houses. That can get bears into a lot of trouble. Our saying is a fed bear is a dead bear.
But I don't see any bait.
Back at the bait station, it's a bit of a mystery. The string's been broken from the tree. Only after an extensive search is proof positive uncovered. The unmistakable sign of a bear's fondness for sardines. And the camera with the infrared trigger? Several creatures tripped the camera, and finally, a clear portrait of a black bear. Not the hoped-for portrait of a mother with cubs, but another bit of evidence of the black bear's continued residence in Missouri.
I love bears. Bears are right at the top of my hierarchy in terms of wildness. And they're just beautiful. They're just a beautiful animal, sleek and healthy. And it's amazing, I think, that an animal that big can live close to people and almost be invisible. I think it adds a lot to the mystique of the Ozark Mountains.
What's the one thing in Missouri that's wilder than bears? Ralph Duran, of course. Let's take a walk on the wild side.
Did you know that Ben Franklin wanted the wild turkey to be our national symbol? It's true, and although it lost out to the bald eagle, the turkey is still one of my favorites, in part because it can make so many kinds of calls. Or hen calls is the sound made by the young turkeys called poults, and is of course the male, the tom. But if you heard this sound, would you recognize it? It almost sounds like a sputtering boat engine, but it's just another call from a lonely tom turkey.
A lot of people put up feeders for birds, but sometimes it feels like all we're doing is feeding squirrels. And what they don't eat, they seem to destroy. Squirrel-proof commercial feeders can be expensive and may only make it more difficult, not impossible, for a squirrel to use. This make-it-yourself squirrel-resistant feeder is a great kids project. And when the squirrels tear it up, it's cheap and easy to replace. Start with an empty bleach bottle that's been thoroughly cleaned. Carefully cut 4 large holes in the sides of the body of the bottle, about 2 inches from the bottom, and fill it with sunflower seeds. Drill a small hole in the center of the bottle cap and thread about 2 feet of thin wire through it, coiling the end to form a knot. Put the cap on the bottle and hook it over a branch or clothesline as far from a tree trunk as possible. To make the project even more fun, you can paint the feeders in your favorite colors or designs. I'm sure the squirrels will figure out this feeder sooner or later, but they'll leave it alone for a while. I guess looking down at the feeder from the branch, they can't see the seed, and the thin wire doesn't give them much to grip onto. But if they discover a way to tear it up, you get the fun of making another one. If you'd like written instructions on how to make this feeder, just write to us. We'll have the address for you at the end of the show.
It's a peaceful January day on the Current River, but it's cold, 20 degrees, perfect for fishing? In Shannon County, Missouri, the answer is yes.
Most of us have done it all of our lives. You know, it just comes naturally after a while.
Vic Weaver and his friends get ready for a gravel bar fish fry, confidently uncoiling a fryer, slicing up some potatoes and onions, and starting a fire for warmth. But 3 things are noticeably absent. Not a single rod and reel in sight, no fish in the kettle, and no sunlight left. They're about to go out on the Current River in the dark of night.
Okay, here we go. Whoa, that's cold. Get a little bit closer over, Mac.
Vic and his buddies are going gigging.
There should be some up here somewhere, surely.
This is the tool of the trade, the gig, a multi-pronged metal spear at the end of a 10-foot pole.
Oh! Man. Oh, man.
This is even harder than it looks.
Oh!
When you're gigging them, you just kind of want to gig towards the nose of the fish or towards the front, and the fish will kind of swim into it. If you miss it, you just go on to the next fish.
All right. Hey, fish. See 2, get 2. That's not bad.
Contrary to what you might think, those powerful lights on the front of the boat do not cause most fish to sit motionless. Most fish dart and dodge.
Well, they're wild, aren't they?
Especially towards the end of the season, which runs from mid-September to the end of January. In a workshop behind his house in Eminence, Raymond Smith fires up the forger. Smith has been making metal gigs for the past 65 years, cranking, whistling, and hammering away. One of the few forgers who knows this dying art.
Well, there's not many. The guy up Somerville makes them, and the guy over is by Centerville. That's the only ones I know.
These gigs are a hot commodity. They cost anywhere from $40 to $60, but they're built to last, built to be used.
Well, I guarantee them till they're wore out.
They're well worth the $50 investment. Just one night's gig and excitement's worth that to me.
Back at the gravel bar, Vic is about to serve up the fish of his labor, and you might be surprised to know what kind of fish they're about to eat.
Trash fish.
These are yellow suckers and hog suckers, fish most people throw back into the river. Vic says their loss is his supper.
As you can see when you pull it up, the meat is real white and it's real flaky and it's just a delicious meat.
And as you can see, these guys are really set up for gigging. I mean, they have everything, and they're the kind of guys you look for. If you can find a set of guys like these to go gigging with you in pretty good shape.
Oh, my goodness, look there. Another hog sucker.
It's not the freezing nights and falling in the river and cleaning these fish when your hands are so cold that you can barely move them. It's a quality time with the friends and the family that make it so special, I guess.
Oh, man, it's cold, but it's fun.
Well, it's time for me to take out. I hope you've enjoyed our trip down the current. It's a really special place. If you get a chance, take a float on an Ozark stream. It's an adventure you'll never forget. Thanks for joining us.